Imagine the sky closing above you, not for an hour, not for an afternoon, but for days. The forest floor turns soft. The tracks disappear. The cold begins crawling through your skin. To us, rain can feel peaceful. A window, a blanket, a warm drink, a quiet room. But to an ancient human, endless rain was not atmosphere. It was danger falling from the sky. A week of rain could erase the path to food, flood the shelter, kill the fire, and invite predators into the same dry spaces. It compressed the world until every creature was searching for the same thing, a place that was not wet. That is what made rain so dangerous. It did not only change the weather, it changed the rules of survival. A hunter could know exactly where the animals had gone the day before, but rain could wash away every print. Mud could hide the signs. Rivers could rise. Wet stone could turn one wrong step into a broken ankle. And in a world without hospitals, a broken ankle was not an injury. It was a sentence. Cold was the first enemy. A soaked body loses heat far faster than a dry one. Without waterproof clothing, without sealed houses, without modern insulation, rain could pull warmth out of the body hour by hour. Even in regions we imagine as warm, nights could become dangerous when the ground, clothing, hair, and skin stayed wet. Then came flooding. Many ancient shelters were caves, rock overhangs, river edges, and places carved naturally into the land. But the same cave that protected you from wind could become a trap when water poured downhill. Archaeologists have found flood sediments inside caves that ancient people once occupied. That means the rain did not stay outside. It entered the places where people slept, cooked, stored tools, and tried to stay alive. And then there were predators. Rain pushed animals into shelter too, and sometimes they chose the same shelter humans used. Large cats, hyenas, bears, and desperate prey could all be forced toward the same narrow pockets of dryness. In that compressed world, the difference between safety and death could be the glow of a single fire. Fire was not just comfort. It was warmth, light, protection, cooked food, and the center of the group. And for much of prehistory, starting fire from nothing may not have been as simple as we imagine. Humans controlled fire for hundreds of thousands of years, with evidence from places like Kizum Cave and Wonderwork Cave. But controlling fire and creating fire on command are two very different achievements. If the rain killed the flame, a group might not be able to simply make another one. That is why ancient people carried embers, protected coals, and used materials that could smolder for hours. Tinder fungus, bark, dry plant fibers, and carefully wrapped embers could become the difference between survival and freezing darkness. Even Otzi, the 5,300-year-old man preserved in the Alps, carried tools for firemaking. Flint, tinder, pyrite, and backup material were not accessories. They were emergency technology. So when the rain came, someone had to guard the fire like a living thing. Move it deeper into the cave. Shield it from gusts. Feed it slowly. Keep it breathing. Use branches protected beneath tree canopies. Split wet logs to reach the dry center. Burn bark that could catch despite moisture. A storm could turn one person into a firekeeper for hours, watching every coal as if the group's future lived inside it. But once the fire survived, another question appeared. What do humans do when they cannot leave? The answer may explain one of the deepest forces behind human creativity. Rainy days were not empty days. They became manufacturing days, teaching days, repairing days, thinking days. Inside caves and rock shelters, archaeologists find stone tools at every stage of production. Cores, flakes, blades, scrapers, points, and tiny chips of stone show where people sat and worked for long stretches. A storm outside could become hours of careful pressure, sharpening, shaping, testing, and preparing for the next hunt. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, archaeologists found evidence of ochre processing roughly 100,000 years old. Shells were used like containers. Pigment was ground into powder. Bone tools helped mix and apply it. That was not panic survival. That was planned production inside shelter with method, memory, and purpose. Then there were needles. Bone needles required patience, precision, and time. A tiny drilled eye in a piece of bone tells us something powerful. Someone had the stillness to make it. You do not carve delicate sewing tools while fleeing through open ground. You make them when the world forces you to pause. With needles came clothing, repaired hides, warmer bodies, carried containers, and shelters held together more carefully. And then came string, one of the most underestimated inventions in human history. At ancient sites in Europe, archaeologists have found evidence of twisted plant fibers and tools designed to make rope. Rope allowed humans to bind stone to wood, build traps, carry loads, tie shelters, make nets, and control the physical world. But rope is slow. It is repetitive. It rewards patience more than speed. That makes it the perfect work for people trapped inside while rain pounds against stone. Bad weather may have helped turn idle hands into inventors. Ancient humans also made shelters more livable. At Sibudu Cave in South Africa, researchers found bedding around 77,000 years old. Layers of grasses and plants had been arranged as sleeping mats, and some plants may have helped repel insects. These people were not merely enduring the cave. They were improving it. They cleaned, replaced, burned old bedding, and managed the space around them. Long before houses, ancient humans were already asking a deeply human question. How do we make this place better? But the greatest transformation may have happened beyond tools, beds, and fire. When rain trapped people together, it created the conditions for story, memory, ritual, and art. Cave art is not random decoration. It is concentrated in deep spaces, often far from the entrances where people would shelter casually. In places like Chauvet, Lascaux, Altamira, and Sulawesi, humans painted animals with astonishing attention to movement and anatomy. Lions, horses, rhinos, bears, and wild creatures appear as if pulled from memory and flame. These images required planning. Someone had to carry light into darkness, mix pigment, choose walls, and work underground. We cannot prove every painting was made during storms, but the connection is hard to ignore. The caves that protected people from weather also became the chambers where human imagination expanded. When hunting stopped, the mind did not stop. Turned inward, backward, forward, and symbolic. Rain may have given early humans something rare, uninterrupted time together. And when people sit together around fire for long hours, they do something no other animal does quite like us. They talk. They teach. They remember. They exaggerate. They warn. They turn experience into story. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner studied fireside conversations among the Jew/Hoansi and found a striking pattern. Daytime talk often focused on practical concerns, but nighttime firelight shifted conversation toward stories, songs, and social bonds. Fire changed the emotional atmosphere. It softened the group. It made memory easier to share. In an ancient rainstorm, that mattered. A cave full of people was not only waiting. The old were explaining water sources, animal movements, dangerous plants, hidden stone deposits, and the rules of survival. Children listened. Adults corrected each other. The group's knowledge was rehearsed until it became culture. Rain may have forced humans into the first classrooms, the first workshops, the first theaters. And myth may have grown from the same pressure. Every culture explains rain because every culture had to live beneath it. Stories about storms, clouds, spirits, rivers, and sky may have begun as attempts to make danger understandable. Some oral traditions have preserved memories of real environmental changes for thousands of years. That kind of memory survives only when people repeat stories across generations with extraordinary care. Rainy days gave humans time to repeat, refine, and protect those stories. But rain was not only an enemy. When it ended, it could become a gift. Soft ground records movement. Fresh mud captures tracks with sharp detail. After rain, a skilled tracker could read the world like a page. Which animal passed, how heavy it was, how recently it moved, whether it limped, where it was going. Rain also brought water into stone hollows, revived plants, softened soil, and made roots easier to dig. Insects emerged. Mushrooms appeared. Termites swarmed. The menu of the landscape changed. The groups that understood those changes were not defeated by rain. They adapted to its rhythm. So what did ancient humans do when it rained all week? They protected the fire. They repaired tools. They made needles, rope, bedding, pigment, clothing, and plans. They told stories. They taught children. They mapped the landscape in memory. They turned waiting into preparation. And when the rain finally stopped, they stepped into a world covered with tracks, water, insects, and new chances. The storm had not stolen their time. It had transformed it. What looks like delay may have been one of the engines of human progress. The hours when our ancestors could not hunt may have become the hours when they became more human. Because in the darkness of a cave, with rain hammering outside and firelight moving across stone, survival became imagination. Hands made tools. Voices made memory. Fear became story. Shelter became home. Rain did not simply trap ancient humans. It gathered them together long enough for culture to take shape. And that may be why we survived. Not because we were never forced to stop, but because when we stopped, we created.